Hi there, folks, and welcome to another edition of Israel Explained. Today, we're going to be talking about the situation in the Red Sea surrounding the Houthi attempt to intercept global shipping and about American failure in deterring that attempt. So, there's been attacks all over the place in the Red Sea, even leading into the Arabian Sea towards the Persian Gulf. I looked at the log of incidents, so there's 20 of them. They involve the firing of over 100 drones and missiles. 10 of those cases involved damage to the ships, but then the ships kept sailing and reached their target. One of those incidents was in a direct attack at the US Navy, another direct attack at the French Navy, another direct attack at the Royal Navy. One incident, a ship was fired on but missed. One was damaged and turned back. One was hijacked to Somalia, and that may or may not have been related to the Houthis. One was hijacked to Yemen, which definitely was related to the Houthis. One was boarded by the Houthis, but the crew and ship were rescued by the U.S. Navy. Two ships were rescued by the U.S. Navy without them being boarded. So that's 20 incidents. And as we talked about in a previous episode, this has caused several shipping companies to stop using that area to traverse the Red Sea and the Suez Canal, which means that instead they're going all the way around the Cape, going all the way around Africa, costing a lot of money, slowing down international trade and commerce. So these are the big companies that have stopped using the area. The French CMA CGM, Danish Maersk, Hong Kong-based OOCL, German Hapag-Lloyd, Italian Swiss-owned Mediterranean Shipping Company, which is the biggest in the world, by the way, have all suspended their shipping through the Red Sea, at least for the time being. Now, it's a core principle of the national security strategy paper of the United States. So, a core of American international strategy, quote, not to allow foreign or regional powers to jeopardize freedom of navigation through the Middle East's waterways. So, the U.S. has acted on this. On December 18th, it created a coalition, which officially involved the United Kingdom, Bahrain, Canada, France, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, the Seychelles, and Spain. Some Arab countries have been involved, but have preferred to remain unnamed. I'll name them anyway. The United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. Egypt, despite the fact that this is a very high interest of theirs because it's the Suez Canal that's being denied shipping here, and that's a major part of their budget, has, for their own reasons, not participated. Um, Looks like they don't want to damage relations with Iran. But this really hasn't worked. There's been 105 attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria. There's been 20 attacks, as I said, on shipping in the Red Sea. So vis-a-vis Iran, and we see the Houthis as an appendage of theirs in Yemen, deterrence really hasn't worked. For all of those attacks, while the US has fended off a few of those Houthi attacks, as we talked about, it's only launched 7 strikes targeting Iranian forces, and those forces have been minor elements for Iran. They haven't harmed Iran seriously. The only strikes that have harmed Iran seriously have been Israeli ones that have been going after senior officials in Syria. Um, just the other day, a Houthi attempt to take over a ship was thwarted by the United States. 10 Houthis were killed, 3 of their ships were sunk. It was a Maersk ship, but as we said, sure, they saved the ship, but the company decided that it's not going to be sailing in the Red Sea for now, showing again a lack of success in the American strategy in the area. Um, and that's because the posture the United States has adopted has been very defensive. Here's a quote from John Kirby, spokesperson for the National Security Council, which is in the White House. He said, quote, we're going to do what we have to do to protect shipping, which sounds promising, right? We're going to put the kind of forces we need in the region to protect those interests, and we're going to act in self-defense going forward. And that term, self-defense, is problematic here because basically, if you are taking a strategy only of defending assets in convoys, etc., in the Red Sea, you're leaving the initiative up to the enemy, in this case, the Houthis, which is a big mistake because the Houthis, the only weapon that they have is surprise. Kind of paraphrasing the Monty Python Spanish Inquisition skit here. So if all they have is surprise and a fanatical devotion to the Pope, um, they don't have the firepower to take on the United States. They don't have the resources to take on the United States, but they can surprise the shipping at any location. So by just doing self-defense, the United States is playing into their hands. I liked what the UK Defense Secretary, Grant Shapps, said today. He said that Britain was willing to take direct action against Iranian aligned groups to, quote, deter threats to freedom of navigation in the Red Sea. And that needs to be the posture that this coalition takes to deter. And deter means to punish, means to hurt the Houthis so much that they don't do it anymore. And we're seeing this lack of deterrence elsewhere. It's all linked. So in recent days, there's been an escalation in the north with Hezbollah, especially after Israel assassinated those Iranian officials. But instead of upping the amount of deterrence that the United States has vis-a-vis Hezbollah, vis-a-vis Iran, they did the opposite. A couple of days ago, news broke the U.S. was going to remove the USS Gerald Ford carrier task force from the Eastern Mediterranean and return it to Norfolk, Virginia. That carrier is the main one anchoring the presence in the Eastern Mediterranean that is designed to deter Hezbollah. Meanwhile, the Dwight Eisenhower carrier is off in the Arabian Sea, and it's designed to deter the Houthis. However, both carriers' task forces, that means the Fords and the Eisenhowers, have been working in the Red Sea. So removing the Ford removes some of the operational capabilities the U.S. has in the Red Sea. But much more importantly than that, since it's the newest and most capable carrier the United States has, it's a message that the United States is not as invested in deterring Iran and the Houthis as it was in the past. And a lot of people have been telling me, I've been vocalizing this on social media, my concerns about Biden's policy on this. A lot of people have been telling me, listen, the United States has the firepower in the region to destroy all of its enemies, whether it has the Ford there or not. And I would say that's looking at it the wrong way. This isn't a question of firepower. Deterrence, especially in the American case, is never about firepower. The United States clearly has all the firepower it needs. What I'm concerned about, and what everyone who's on the American and Israeli side in this war needs to be concerned about, is that America's enemies don't believe it will use the force that it has. It's not enough, if you know deterrence theory, to have capabilities. You also have to have the will to use it, or at least appear to have the will to use it, and you have to communicate the will to use it to the enemy. Deterrence is psychological. You have to communicate it to someone. Let's take the example of, let's say, someone breaks into your house, right? And you have a gun. So that means you have the capability to deter them. But the question is, A, are you actually willing to use the gun against the intruder? B, does the intruder see that you have a gun and that you're pointing it at them? C, are you holding your gun in such a manner that the intruder genuinely thinks that you will shoot them? Because if the answer to any of these things is no, you don't have deterrence against the intruder. So Iran knows the US has carriers, but if those carriers are not going to be used to target assets that Iran doesn't want to lose, or targets that the Houthis don't want to lose, it doesn't matter. They're just playing defense here. And removing the Gerald Ford at this point shows a lack of seriousness about the deterrence. And um, the Iranian Navy at this point is sending in its own ships instead. They're sending the Al Borz warship. It entered the Red Sea on Saturday. Iran confirmed this on Monday through the Tasnim news agency. And they say it's there to, quote, secure shipping lanes, repel pirates, and accomplish other purposes. And it's been there since 2009, or saying it's been operating the area since 2009. Sending that in as the Ford is withdrawing is the wrong message. It shows that Iran is serious about enforcing um, its dominance in the region, and the United States is not. Iran's defense minister, Muhammad Reza Ashtiani, said on December 14th, quote, nobody can make a move in a region where we have predominance. Iran sees themselves as having predominance in the Red Sea, and that's despite having an inferiority in every way, right? The U.S. still retains the Dwight Eisenhower. It has a Wasp class amphibious ship, the USS Bataan, and Harper's Ferry class dock landing ships like the U.S. Carter Hall. It also has the 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit there with 2,000 Marines. But if it's not going to use any of that, then Iran is right to say that they have predominance in the region. If you have a gun, you also have to be willing to use it, and you have to show the enemy that you're willing to use it. And that's what the United States is lacking, and that's why shipping is not secure. And as long as that happens, it's a failure of American leadership, and everyone in the world will stand up and notice when the United States is not doing its job as the global hegemon. Okay, so let's get to some questions. John Price asks, what do you think of the pro-Palestinian claim that Israel has lost control of Bet Hanun? Also, what is delaying action in Rafah? Seems to me that both the IDF and Netanyahu um, want to go in. What is the Israeli strategy for Lebanon in order to avoid another 2006 and at the same time not lose more international support by going there? Okay, a lot to unpack there. Regarding Israel has lost control of Bet Hanun. Absolutely not. Israel has not lost control of Bet Hanun. It has such confidence in its control in Bet Hanun that it's actually cycling out some of its troops there. What's delaying action in Rafah? The Israeli government. The Israeli government doesn't want to go in there. They are concerned that mostly I think about international aspects of that. All the people in there, the reaction of Egypt, and those sorts of things. What is the Israeli strategy for Lebanon in order to avoid another 2006 and at the same time not lose more international support, etc.? I don't know that Israel has a strategy. It didn't really have a strategy going into Gaza. It didn't have a strategy to prevent what happened in Gaza. I don't see that it has a strategy now. What it's trying to do right now, which is not going to work, is it's trying to make noise, bomb, and bring about some sort of diplomatic solution so that Hezbollah will go back behind the Litani River. But that's not going to happen. There's no reason for Hezbollah to go back unilaterally. It's a little bit like what we talked about with the Houthis. Um, I don't think Hezbollah thinks that Israel has the forces and the capabilities to send it back across the Litani. Even if Israel goes in and pushes them back, they think they'll just come back in. And honestly, they're probably right. So I don't see a strategy there at all. I never saw any way that Israel can win in Lebanon. I'm very concerned about Lebanon because, on the one hand, look, Israel needs to do something because the people in the north are not able to go back to their homes. On the other hand, I don't see how Israel can really protect um, its civilians without going all the way into Lebanon for a war that I don't think Israel has the wherewithal right now to do. I think probably it's better for Israel to punt on this, I say hesitantly, and win the war in Gaza resoundingly. Merbst asks, how will Israel provide transportation for the civilians in Rafah? Well, you're assuming here that Israel will go into Rafah and will have to clear it out, which I don't know if that's actually going to happen. But if it does, Israel's not going to provide transportation. It didn't do that for the people in the north. What it will do, I'm assuming, is it will open a corridor where people can go. I think that will be a lot easier to do because Israel will control the entire area in a way that it didn't before. So I don't think that's a major problem. The major problem is, where do you send those people? Will the area where Israel sends them to then be safe, or will it become a nest of vipers with a lot of Hamas members in it because you can't really make sure that the people coming in aren't terrorists? So it provides a lot of logistical problems. But how to get the civilians there isn't really the problem. You tell them you can go there, it's safe, they'll go. It's no picnic in Rafah right now. They'll go if they can. Richard Grant asks, last night at 12:01, Hamas sent missiles to Tel Aviv. Are you sure Israel is winning? Well, no, I'm not at all sure that Israel is winning. Israel has occupied most of the strategic areas in the Gaza Strip. It's killing a hell of a lot more Hamas people than Hamas is killing Israeli soldiers. So, in all kinds of objective ways, Israel is doing better in the war than Hamas is doing. Having said that, none of this means anything if Israel doesn't achieve anything diplomatically and politically and withdraws. Um, if Hamas remains in power in any way, Israel will have lost. But you're specifically mentioning the missiles mean nothing. In fact, if you look at the launching of missiles, the level and the number have gone down consistently. What happened at 12:01, so like 1 minute after midnight on the night between December 31st and January 1st, New Year's Eve, was Hamas had saved up a bunch of missiles to remind Israelis, you can't be celebrating New Year's Eve because we're still going to shoot missiles at you. Like we're still here, you haven't won. So it's a public relations thing. But the actual number of rockets has gone down because Israel has taken over most of the areas that they shoot from and destroyed a good amount of rockets. So that doesn't mean anything. But I'm not sure Israel will win. I am sure Israel has an upper hand right now if it knows how to use it. Samson Zoom Bespoke asks, what happened to flushing of the tunnels? Well, that is a good question. Um, we saw pictures of Israel flushing tunnels that were allowed for release. Since then, it hasn't been discussed. I know that in some cases, since then, it has been used through some of my contacts, but there are a couple of problems. It may cause entire sections of the tunnel to collapse in an uncontrolled manner, which could kill hostages. So I think Israel is trying to do that in sections where it knows the hostages aren't at. It's using it among the many tools it's using to destroy tunnels, but it's doing it in a more controlled way than maybe if we thought they were just going to flood all the tunnels until they get destroyed. Because of the hostages and because they don't want areas to collapse under where soldiers are, all that is happening in a more controlled manner. What percentage of the destruction of tunnels is being done through water? I don't know. What I do know is it's definitely one of the tools that are being used. Kelly Hay asks, how come Al Jazeera says Hamas's leaders are in Qatar, surrounded and or bombing their homes is symbolic? So you have to remember Hamas has two leaderships, one in Qatar and one in Gaza. And according to official Israeli policy, both of them are um, living on borrowed time, and Israel's going to kill them at any moment. That doesn't really seem to be Israeli policy, though. Israeli policy right now seems to be to keep the Qatar leadership alive so that they will negotiate the release of hostages and so that they can continue to use Qatar as um, a way of getting hostages out and as a comfortable mediation source to Hamas to possibly end this war. So the difference is Israel's willing to kill, or happy to kill, I would say, the leadership of Hamas in the Gaza Strip, which is being more extreme, and right now seems to be willing to let the others live. Um, so that's what's happening there. The leadership in Gaza is very important. They're running the war in Gaza. They're officially outranked by the foreign leadership. But as far as this war is concerned, that's not necessarily so because they're not on the ground. So both really matter. Okay, so that's the end of our episode for today. If you like what I do, consider supporting me on Patreon at Shael Media on Patreon. And also consider checking out my podcast, History of the Land of Israel, where we are now talking about the arrival of the Philistines in the land of Israel. I will see you here next time.